Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and I'll be back just after this.
The war was over. The Allies had won, or so they thought. It never pays to make assumptions, especially when the Russians are involved. British command had mobilized their heavy armor and were advancing east into Soviet-occupied Germany. The Russians had a stranglehold on Berlin and were slowly choking the life out of it. The British objective was to establish a supply route to the encircled city. The airlifts had been abandoned after Tempelhof and Gatow airports were bombed by saboteurs. Captain Thompson from the 7th Armored Division, Desert Rats, was given the unenviable task of clearing the way into Berlin. Thompson wouldn't admit it to his men, but he knew he was about to prod a sleeping bear with a rather large 42-ton stick. Failure wasn't an option. The fate of Berlin rested on Thompson's shoulders.
So this is the second part of, the second war story, which is Flashpoint Berlin, and in this one you take control of a stock Centurion, Centurion Mark 1, and you've got the 17-pounder on there now. Depending on how many times, I mean, some people still haven't been able to get into this, or they've been having a lot of difficulty. It seems to be more, PlayStation 4, I must admit, than Xbox. I finished this off on Xbox today because, well, I'd have to do the first one all over again to do it on my PS4, so I just did it on the Xbox again. So, you know, I've managed to get straight in. My wife, after I'd done all these, she went on the PlayStation to do this one because she'd not done it yet, and it took her about 4 attempts to get into the first two, both of them, and well, I think the third one she got into straight away, so it wasn't too bad. At that point it seems to have sorted itself out now, I think. Fingers crossed anyway. But I thought I'd put this one on, just have a little chat about it and show it you, for those that either haven't managed to get on it yet or haven't been on it yet for whatever reason. You know, I had somebody say that it didn't play the cutscenes for them, so it was nice that they could actually watch the cutscenes. So, you know, there's been a few things about it, about the, you know, somebody said it's been bugged, and for some people, and sort of taking things away and things like that, not rewarding the right things and what have you. And I've had a very, very small thing myself, and it's nothing really, to be honest. You know, it's not really an issue, it's just a very small thing, but you know, these things are happening. But if anything like that happens where it does take anything away from you, if you raise a ticket through Wargaming Customer Services, they may be able to help you, so it just might be an idea. Now, depending on how many times you did do the first one, because the more times you go into this, the more sorts of features become available to you and become unlocked, and depending on how many times you've done the first one, depends on what you might have now. Now what I did this one. This is my first time through it, and I thought I'd show this one just because I got a bit derpy and what have you. And it did, I don't know, there was a couple of bits where I sort of got a bit too clever, if you see what I mean, like trying to outflank, and there really wasn't any need to. And went into the second one and failed it because the 17-pounder on this, it was just so frustrating. You know, I was just virtually doing no damage, kept having to get an ammo refill because I was running out of ammunition, because I was doing such little damage per shot. So I basically just went over this one a few more times and used a little bit of free XP to fully upgrade it to the 20-pounder, and I would recommend you do that. If you don't want to use free XP, just sort of keep replaying this one. Get it upgraded for the 20-pounder, it makes your life so much easier for the next two. Well, especially the next one. The third one, surprisingly easy, I found it actually. Whether I was just lucky or what, I don't know, but I did find it surprisingly easy, the third part of this one. But yeah, I would say, just like I say, either use free XP or do this. You know, repeat it until you've got enough to get the £20 on this. It just makes life a lot easier, like I say, and I didn't even have to take any premium ammunition in. So that's how much easier it made it. Now, the other thing is that, again, depending on how many times you've done it, like I say, it unlocks different features. You know, you start off with nothing, and then you get your consumables, like I mentioned yesterday, and, you know, yada yada. And it goes up, and eventually you unlock the ability for camouflage, equipment, so that it's just like any other tank in the game. In the multiplayer, you can basically do everything to it. Put equipment on it, although I don't really know why you would spend that much on equipment, just for a tank that you can only use in story mode. But then again, if you've got loads of silver lying about in your garage, you know, those of you that have been on this on Xbox for like 3 years, you know, it doesn't matter. But anyway, you can put equipment on, and after one of them, I can't remember what number it was, you actually get, it gives you 20,000 free XP, which is quite nice as well. So that is there if you did want to fully upgrade this. Now this is where I tried to get a bit clever and went around flanking, but by the time I got there, they killed all but one anyway. So it was a bit pointless. But yeah, that was the main problem with the next one, with this, was the 17-pounder. It just wasn't doing the damage. You know, you could hit, and you were penning most of the time, apart from the KV4s and stuff, where you had to aim for the weak spot on top. You know, on the top of the turrets, it's a stock KV4. But the 20-pounder, you just don't have those problems, and it does more damage per shot. I didn't even come close, well, I say I didn't come close to running out of ammo. I did use quite a bit of ammo. But also use your teammates as well. I mean, one of the things for it is to not pick up an ammunition refill. You can pick up a health one, but not an ammo one. That's the secondary condition on, isn't it, on the next one. But I'll go on about that a bit more anyway with that one. Now here I've basically just got to cap this base and then move on. I think take some more out and cap another base. I actually thought there might be more than just the two, but it turns out there were just the two. And it went a bit wrong. Yeah, I went a bit derpy. Just went full on, just straight in there, and got my two medium tank companions killed. Towards the end, I had to cap the last base on my own, which took ages. So I basically just skipped it in the interest of saving a bit of time. Also, that's why I didn't put the trailer on the beginning of this again. I didn't think it was necessary. Now it's just a case of taking out this KV2, and just like in multiplayer games, somebody drives in front of me just as I shoot. And he's just following a bit of an awkward path, so I'm just going to come up a bit more. There we go. That gets rid of him. Now this one, again, it didn't seem particularly difficult. I just went stupid at one point and, like I say, got two guys killed just by rushing in, but it just seemed to take a while because you have to take a bit of a roundabout route. But it's not too bad. But yeah, it's like I say, I've enjoyed it. The one dodgy thing that I've had, which is sort of a slight bug, I know somebody in the comments mentioned something like they did it in I don't know if they said they did it in a German or a Russian tank or something, and it gave them camo for all their American ones or something like that. It was quite odd. And what did I do? I think it was when I got the upgrade on this. I put the upgrade package on it, the fully upgraded 20-pounder, and it came up saying that I had deleted the T110E5 or the T110E3, one or the other, but I deleted it somehow, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I never did check it out in the garage. Something I did also wonder as well was whether if you'd been through this tank, because I haven't on Xbox, whether the upgrades would be free. So I went and checked on PlayStation. Just jumped into the garage with the Sherman, but no, they're not. I didn't think they would be, but it was worth a shot. So you'd still have to upgrade them. And somebody else left a comment as well, which I've pinned, saying that there's no need to overtrain these crews because apparently the first time you put them or swap them into a tech tree tank is free. So that's quite nice and quite useful information. Yeah, so here's where I just rush in and just get myself in a bit of a crappy situation. And yeah, the other two with me rush in as well, and I basically just get them killed, and then end up having to cap out on my own. Now, you know, I've really enjoyed these. I think the little bonuses that you get and the sort of rewards have been quite nice. And I think they're quite a nice thing. I don't know how long I'll play it for, and I think I might. I don't know. Obviously I've done these two now. I'm probably going to go through it with a couple of my own tanks, you know, Tech Tree tanks and what have you, and just train them up a little bit and, you know, get a bit extra from it. But it's a nice mode to be able to go back to, you know, that it's always going to be there, so you can just go back to it and just do something a bit different, you know, when the multiplayer is getting you down. At least you've got this mode here now for something slightly different, which is, again, really nice. Although something that... I don't know, I was just thinking about this. It would have been nice, and I actually suggested to the console community manager a couple of months ago, before this came out, about, you know, it was just after the... no, it might have been just before they did the co-op PvP, co-op PvE mode, I think. And I said about a mode, or it might have been just after, actually, saying, you know, using that now that's in the game, what about one that's, you know, actual historical battles or alternate or something? Well, you know, like actual historical battles where you could give the player, you know, a specific tank or something to do it in, and maybe have a series of them strung together and have a reward tank at the end. And he said, you know, he couldn't really say anything at the time, but he just said, you know, he liked the way I was thinking, but just see what, you know, just wait and see, basically. And I was talking to him after quite a few minutes.
Neither Thompson nor his men could quite believe what had just happened. Although it was only a bloodied nose, lives had been lost on both sides. There was a sudden shift in mood inside the Centurion, as if the consequences of their firefight had been played out between them. Thompson knew this was the start of something much, much bigger. Thompson had to keep his men focused on the job at hand. He knew the next enemy armor they'd meet wouldn't be caught napping. The Soviets had dug in, blockading the roads that led into Berlin. The only option left for Thompson was through town.
So as you saw, I just skipped to the end there, basically, because it was just me sat in a cap for about a minute and a half, and I thought that was quite boring. But anyway, as I was saying, yeah, just sort of a wait and see. And then when this came out, he said it was quite difficult at the time because I was quite close, you know, sort of what I'd suggested was quite close to what they were actually working on at the time, but he couldn't say anything to me. So it was just quite amusing. But yeah, I do like this, but I think one thing they could have done, and this is where I went off on a bit of a tangent there, is that maybe once you'd finished the campaign, like the one with the M4 before this, the Brothers in Armour, and this one, that you basically got to keep the tank and use the tank as well as the crew in multiplayer, and you got to keep it as a, not sort of a fully fledged premium, if you see what I mean, but just something with like a, I don't know, you just got to keep it with like a 5% or a 10% XP and silver bonus, something like that, you know, just a little bit of something, but just so you got to keep it. And obviously you know, this would just be, you know, that sort of almost like a normal Tech Tree Centurion, which it is in a way, but just with a small bonus to it, like I say, just 5 or 10% bonus. And the Sherman, you know, it'd be nice to have that in the Russian Tech Tree. The Sherman from Brothers in Armour, you know, just have it in the Russian Tech Tree again, just a small bonus on it, as a sort of a semi-premium in a way. But yeah, that'd be nice. But you know, it is nice that we've got the crew with a 6th sense on. That's useful, and all the little extras, the 20,000 free XP and stuff like that. It's all nice, you know, little bonuses and little sort of rewards. But all in all, I think they've done pretty well with this. You know, I've enjoyed it. Some of the maps, I don't know. I think some of the maps have been better than others. That's I mean, for me, that's my main disappointment with this, is that the maps, they are maps that we've already got in the game, which is probably done down, you know, just programming, saving size, that sort of thing. But they are, you know, some are altered. Like I said yesterday, they're sort of altered in some way, some more so than others. But maybe, I don't know, maybe a new map or something like that. I think, although I've not been on it yet in multiplayer, I think that the last part of this is on the new map that we got, but I'm not entirely sure, because like I said, I've not been on it on multiplayer. Now, with this one, like I said, I did try this with a £17, this is not my first playthrough through it. This is my first one with the £20. And you cannot get through the tank traps at the beginning, so you have to come through them and down that side. But if you just sort of edge down to where I did, you'll see them. They'll pop up, and you just move slowly. Use your teammates as well, get them to mark. Move down this way, and there is usually, but not always, an RT just over on the left where I killed that one. And then, again, usually, but not always, the other RT is around, I think it's about D0-ish. You know, the sort of back corner of the town. But yeah, around D0, I think, something like that. So, I mean, what I did on this one, don't go up the middle. Go up to the marker where you have to sort of capture it, but then don't go through the middle of the town. I actually sort of capture the marker and then head off to the left, skirt over the back, take out the RT, because he will just pick off your other tanks. Your sort of teammates one by one. Is the RTs are quite, they can be quite brutal on this actually, because your guys just sit in the open and don't play RT sort of RT aware, if you see what I mean. And again, you know, I wasn't overly careful with a lot of this. It's, I don't know, you do have to be against certain tanks on it, just like you do in the game really. You know, you don't want to go toe to toe with an IS-3, because it'll just go straight through your hull. But I normally pop up to this bit, spot the tank that's up here, whatever that tank is at the time. Again, just a little bit careless there, put a couple of shots in, but I really need to get rid of that RT. So I'm going to put those shots in. Now the rest of my team have caught up with me, and I think this is where I decide to move along. Further sort of north, if you will. Or do I take this guy down first? I can't remember. Yeah, you see there's a, I think there might be a point there. Yep, where RT does take a bit of a pot shot in this direction. You see the problem is, like I say, teammates tend to bunch together. And they are out in the open, so if you leave that RT alive, he will do a lot of damage to your teammates and possibly even pick them off sort of one by one. If he hits the side of you know, one of these Centurions or the engine deck, they're done. And you can see he's been tracked there, and actually I'm surprised I didn't go for RT a bit sooner. I'm being a bit lackadaisical here. I have done this one a couple of times, but like I say, this is the first time I did it, I think, with the £20. Or my first, yeah, this is my first try with the £20, should I say. And yeah, it may be that I wanted to do a bit of damage to those guys, but now I think is where I decide to move down a bit and try and get along and take out RT. And this is what I mean, you sort of pop up to the corner and spot that first tank after capturing the gate. And then if you come along this way, I'd probably come over a bit further down than I did. And I think I may even take a hit from this, from popping up this way. But you come up and over a bit further down, get onto the back slope of that hill in front of me, so you know you've got that in between you and the enemy tanks over here. Leave your guys fighting them. Keep marking people though, because hopefully RT will actually rain down and hit something and be useful. But you've just seen the RT shell come curving in there, and I was just coming up to try and take down this T-44, and as I fired he moved, obviously, because that's just what happens. Do a bit of damage to this one, and that's basically because I don't really want anything on my flank popping up over there, but I decided to move further down because RT is still going at my teammates, so I could really do with getting rid of him. And there he is. Yep, D0. So not always there again. But usually, if the first RT is on that corner, well, in a position where I've first, killed him, then usually the second RT is there in D0. And it is definitely worth your while to take them down. I mean, obviously the first one, you generally see him when you go into the town anyway, but yeah, it's worth hunting that one down, because it just takes the pressure off. You're not going to get an RT shell falling down on you and ruining your day, and your teammates aren't either. And then it's basically just a case of mopping up. You can try and go for the cap as well. You don't have to kill everything, you can just cap. And again with this one, it's just the ammo thing. You can get a health one. And I'll be back again.
Berlin. Nearly half of Captain Thompson's force were burning wrecks scattered across the East German countryside, a stark reminder of the men who had laid down their lives. Yet it wasn't the time to dwell on the dead. Their sacrifice meant the Allies had advanced within touching distance of their goal. Countless souls now depended on them crossing over the line. The shadow of a Third World War was drawing ever closer. Air support was gone, curtailed by the worsening weather conditions. The only thing Thompson and his remaining tanks had left was the strength of their resolve. Somewhere beyond this hellish fury, the cream of the Russian army, the 9th Tank Division, lay in wait. Thompson would meet the enemy head-on and show them the true meaning of British grit. Thompson stared at the ring of Soviet steel that encircled the city. There was no escaping it. He would have to go through those tanks.
So yeah, with that last one, like I say, the secondary objective on your first time through is not to use an ammo pickup, and same on this one. Now, if you're using the 17 pounder, that's very, very difficult unless you use your teammates to kill nearly all of the enemy, or just try and get into cap and cap out as soon as you can. You see, like I say, you don't have to kill them all, you just have to cap after capturing the gate. But like I say, with the 17 pounder, because it is low damage, it does, and also because of the bouncers that you're going to get, you nearly always have to use an ammo pickup. I did. I think I got over 60 penning hits, and then had to get the pickup to get the ammo. So yeah, it just makes that easier as well. So it's definitely worth getting the 20 pounder on it before you do the second part of Operation Flashpoint. So like I say, just repeat that first part in the Ardennes a few times. Now with this one, again, like I say, don't get an ammo pickup. Quite easy on this one. Again, the 20 pounder carries, quite a bit of ammo. And in fact, not much less, I think, than the 17 pounder. So it does carry a nice amount of ammo. You've got more damage, obviously, than the 17 pounder. And you've got higher pen as well, and you notice that at this point I can put equipment on, and I can put the different ammo on because of how many times I've done it. Or how many times, like I say, it's not as you progress through. You can just keep repeating the first, the first part, or even just the first part of the first war story if you wanted, and just keep going until you got all the sort of the features unlocked. But I didn't need any, like I say, premium ammo with this one, with the sort of stuff you come up against. Although towards the end of this, you have to capture. I don't know if you go through this or cap it. I can't quite remember. Then you have to cap a section in the middle, and then you have to fight in air quotes boss. And again, somebody pushing me out, so just like multiplayer. But this one, like I say, I think, or I can only assume that this is the new map that we've had added. I've not seen it yet, but I seem to recognise some of the buildings from the screenshots. So again, like I say, I can only make that assumption. But this one, like I say, this felt kind of surprisingly easy, this part. And again, I don't know if I was just lucky or what. But yeah, this sort of last part was a little bit easy. Even the last sort of bit, you know, I panicked a little bit when I saw what was coming, and then it just was, I don't know, a bit of a anticlimax in a way. But again, I could have just been lucky. But my overall opinion on these is I've enjoyed them. I know some people have said, you know, they get a bit boring, and I can see that happening. You know, if you've sort of done them with these, or you've had to repeat to obviously do up your tank, or you've been through them with a few of your own tanks as well. You know, I can see the sort of novelty wearing off. But like I said earlier, it'd be a nice mode to be able to come back to, you know, have a bit of a blast on it. Go and do multiplayer, even if you do multiplayer for... yeah, even if you do multiplayer for a few weeks before you go back on it, it's just, you know, be there to have a nice break from the sort of, like I say, when it's getting a bit too much for you. But again, just another example that the AI is, you know, trying to make you feel at home and almost make you feel like you're on multiplayer, because we now have a big pile of tanks there that seem to be stuck and not moving anywhere. And I'm just trying to get one of them to at least follow me to try and get out of that pile and come along this way with me, because at the moment Artie's heading that way, and one of the heavy tanks is with me, well, one of the Black Princes. I've got two with me. And again, when you do this, you may have different tanks with you. They will be the same sort of names, you know, Convoy Tank 1, Convoy Tank 2, but they might not be Black Princes. I don't know, I've seen different tanks on different levels. One of them I had, in fact I think it was the one I've just done actually. I think the first time I did it I had an AT-15 and a Charioteer, and then another time I did it and I think I had two Charioteers, but I can't remember which way around it was. But anyway, meaningless. I'm just sort of jabbering now. I've just been trying to get them out of that pig pile, and I think they may finally have managed to get loose. What the problem seemed to be was one Centurion that had sort of got his hull turned around, his turret facing in the direction he wanted to go, and his hull going in the opposite direction. So yeah, good driving there. But basically, hopefully when you do this, you'll capture that base. Your tanks won't be full of idiots. They won't just be stuck in a big pile, and they will be able to come down this way with you. And I mean, I don't know, I just came down this way and went this sort of route because the one heavy tank and the artillery that had got out of that pile came this way, so that's why I came around this way, heading towards the two pickups down here. I'm assuming you could have probably gone the other way or gone through the centre of town, but I ended up coming this way, going along there to where those tanks were in those pickups, and then straight up towards the centre, and just basically sat in camp, shot at whatever I could see. There was still a couple of tanks left, I think, who sort of made the way, you know, enemy tanks that made the way towards the cap, and then the boss shows up. So yeah, it was, like I say, not as hard as I thought this one was going to be. I thought this was going to be quite tricky. But again, I think if you're doing this with the 17-pounder, it would be very, very tricky, especially at the end, and I think it would be almost impossible to do it without having to use an ammo pickup as well, again. And I mean, with this one it might be worth chucking maybe half a dozen premium rounds on because of what you come up against at the end, but again, I didn't, and I didn't need to switch, and didn't really struggle with it. So, you know, it's not really necessary when you've got this one. Bit of a lag spike there, ended up with me facing backwards. Just to finish off this LTTB, the rest of my allied tanks have managed to get out of that pile that they were in, and they're now caught up with me, and just a case of avoiding the ammo pickup and heading up this street towards the cap. Now, even as something I did notice as well, even when you get your tank fully upgraded, the companion or allied Centurions, whatever that you have with you, they are still stock, or they looked it anyway, when I was trying to see. So I don't know, maybe something to look at. as you upgrade your tank on these, the tanks that you sort of have with you get upgraded maybe. I'm not sure if it's really necessary. I'm just trying to see now, actually, see if they are upgraded. It might be that it was just for the last mission that they weren't upgraded. But again, I could be mistaken. I did think I checked. But now I'm beginning to doubt myself slightly. I'm just trying to think back to the sort of damage they were doing when they were hitting. And with this one, basically the cap area, there we go, just crossed into it. I did miss that before and didn't quite realise where the cap area was. I take a bit of a hit from Artie and again have a bit of a derpy moment as I try and reverse over a wreck and can't figure out what's going on with my tank barrel or my gun or anything. Didn't really want to use my repair kit there. Yeah, couldn't quite figure out, hang on a minute, I didn't think there was a slope behind me. And yeah, realised that I'm on that. Take another hit from Artie because of my own stupidity. Managed to get rid of him though, and I don't know if there's more than one Artie. I do keep forgetting to check the team list on here, you know, because you don't have the full team thing at the top. I just kind of forget about it, but I'm not sure if there's any more Artie. There are a couple of tanks up there, and again, it might be different on yours. It's just because of the route I took and got into the middle of, well, into the middle of here, got to the cap and started capping out. And I couldn't quite see the edge, actually, so I was a bit cautious about where to go. You know, about how far out to go, and I can just see it there. I couldn't quite see it at the time, but now, looking back, I can just see the edge of the circle coming on, so I probably could have gone a bit further up, but again, I didn't need to. Then you cap out with this one and destroy. The boss comes up. You've still got the no ammo pickup, and I did wonder what the boss was and where it was coming from, and I thought, well, there's T-43, that's not the boss. Again, I'm assuming it's going to have skulls on the side of its name like the ones on the first war story when you had to destroy those 3 tanks. And it's neither of those two, so where is he? And yeah, I'd not noticed the heavy tank behind me on the map yet. And there we go. Now I've seen him. So it's an IS-7 that comes at you, and I was thinking, oh crap. But then I remembered it's not a person behind it. It's just AI. So it's probably going to follow a path or a route or just go straight for something, and indeed it does. It goes straight for the TD. I've got out of there, got to a point where I can get a wreck between me and the IS-7 to give myself a bit of cover. But again, as you can see, not using any premium ammo, is just sort of spinning around trying to chase the other tanks that are there with me and giving me plenty of flank and backside to shoot at, so quite easy to take down, to be honest. And there we go. That's it. So I hope you've enjoyed that again. You know, I hope it's been entertaining for you. I'll do this when we get the new war stories as well. But yeah, I just hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video for you. I'm going to go quiet now for the last cutscene, so yeah, until then, take care of that. I'll catch you next time. See you later.
Thompson's men had broken through the blockade around Berlin. The path was now cleared for Allied supplies to reach the starving population. Thompson had lost so many tanks to the Russians. The fighting had been fierce. The price had been high, paid by the blood of his men. For some families back home, this would be the first Christmas without a father, a brother, or son. From the ashes of grief, hope would spring once more. Berlin could breathe again. The grip of Soviet rule had been loosened. For now, the threat of another conflict lay unrealized. Politicians on both sides had been hesitant to escalate the situation any further. The world just wasn't ready for another global war. Yet, this was a defining moment in history. One which would see both sides staring across at one another with deep resentment and suspicion. It also heralded the birth of the UN. and ensured a nervous peace held across Central and Eastern Europe. As for Thompson, his name would become as synonymous with the desert rats as Montgomery's own. The captain's selfless actions and that of his men ensured the citizens of Berlin had more reason than most to be thankful one cold Christmas Eve in 1948.